Look, I don't want to annoy you. I don't want you to switch off, but I'm sorry, I have to raise with you the issue of former Australian Prime Minister Kevin Rudd. Yep, I know you might be sick of hearing from him, I'm sorry. But we need to share his bitterness and expose his hypocrisy. Now, as you know, Rudd is running a bit of a jihad against News Corp, or the Murdoch media empire, owners of Sky News, among others. From the smoking ruins of his political career, he can't see any of his own mistakes. He can't see all the errors that prompted his own colleagues to tear him down back in 2010. And then later, after he knifed Julia Gillard, he can't recognise any of the failings that saw voters reject him in favour of Tony Abbott in 2013. No, according to Kevin, he did nothing wrong. His argument is that he was brought undone by News Corp. The evil right-wing media poisoned the minds of his colleagues first time around and then you, the voters, the next time around. Oh well, whatever rocks your boat, Kevin. But this week, he started another element of his anti-News Corp campaign, and it's based on climate change.
If you're like me and you're sick and tired of Murdoch using and abusing his media monopoly power to stand in the way of effective climate change action...
Hang on, standing in the way of effective climate change action? Who was it who reduced Australia's ambitions on climate action? Remember when Rudd came to power on a big moral and environmental crusade?
Climate change is the great moral challenge of our generation.
Yes, indeed. But when his emissions trading scheme was blocked in Parliament, Rudd didn't have the moral courage to take it to a double dissolution. He did not fight to save the planet. Instead, he dropped his plan, withdrew his bill and surrendered on the greatest moral challenge in our time. That's precisely when Australian voters and his own colleagues lost faith in Rudd, by the way. But 3 years later, after Julia Gillard had brought in a carbon tax and Rudd had brought her down, where was he then on the greatest moral challenge?
Mr Abbott was pointing to increased carbon prices. We're moving towards an emissions trading scheme. I've announced the abolition of the carbon tax.
Oh, he was axing the carbon tax. He was retreating again. Such courage, such high climate morality. Rudd is a joy to watch these days as his hypocrisy and his bitterness plays out before our very eyes. Anyway, his latest campaign is to push for a boycott of a real estate site in order to hurt News Corp. And he says he won't be using this real estate site anymore himself. Well, again, the hypocrisy is breathtaking. Rudd and his wife Therese just bought a $17 million beachfront mansion on the Queensland Sunshine Coast. Check it out. That's what $17 million can buy you. Imagine the carbon footprint of building and running this joint. It's got some elevation too, so it will be able to cope with some rising oceans, at least for a while. So with his own real estate interests taken care of, Rudd won't be needing to use an online real estate site for a while yet, I would venture. There he is, the little Aussie battler, a coward on climate change, now wanting others to take up his fight against his perceived enemies. It's a sad way to see a former Prime Minister behave. It's Trumpian in its narcissism. At least he's got a nice place to hang out at over Christmas. Might be a good time for some self-reflection.